Rodney,
Good. Hey, good to see you, man. How you been, Rob?
I've been good, man. How have you been? I see you moved.
Yeah, well, I mean, right now I'm on vacation, so to speak. I'm in Miami, or actually, to be more specific, on Key Biscayne. So I'm in some nice sunny weather right now. But yeah, I moved to Washington State, which is a little bit different for me. But anyway, yeah, we're enjoying it so far. I got
Awesome.
to tell you, this comes kind of at a fortuitous time for at least someone. I was one of the clients I was doing a consultation with yesterday, suffering from psoriatic arthritis, went carnivore, got rid of his arthritis, got rid of a lot of his psoriasis, still has a little bit residual. And I said, well, I'm talking to Rob Stewart, whose kind of main gig is skin and psoriasis. So, I just wondered, I said, what do we do in that situation? What are the things that you've learned? I gave him a couple of things I thought, but I thought I would just, continue with you. So if he's listening, hopefully that information will come to. But before we get into that, remind folks a little bit about your backstory. I know, like, I don't think I've interviewed you here in this platform. I know I did it on HBO a couple of years ago. So tell people a little bit about your story and what you do, and then we can go in from there.
Yeah, awesome. So I'll stick mostly to the gut health and skin health stuff as my history, because I could get into a lot of crazy, weird stuff. I've done a lot of things in my life, but my history that leads to this moment is that I was my whole life growing up, I had kind of digestional issues and gut biome issues. I also had extremely sensitive skin. It would manifest in things like after playing in a grassy field as a child, I'd get covered in red bumps and extremely itchy and just a huge allergic reaction that was extremely uncomfortable. And that kind of slowly went back and forth between being manageable and not really being a big deal at all. In my late teens, high school days, I started to have on my scalp and on my face and on my sternum some pretty apparent eczema, dermatitis, and psoriasis. And by the time I was in my 2021s, getting ready to get done with college, it had become fully systemic. So we're talking, I had eczema, dermatitis, psoriasis, and rosacea, and it covered most parts of my body, my face, my scalp, my sternum. Those were the worst parts, but I also had it in the crooks of my crotch and my butt and my back, on my elbows and my armpits, on my feet, in between my toes, on my hands. So I had it everywhere. And it had become extremely systemic. And like most people, I was turning to my dermatologist, I was turning to my MD, and I was trying to go the typical Western, medical route of just getting help from doctors. And what happened in my story is that every doctor said the same thing. They said, eczema, psoriasis, and dermatitis is a lifetime disease. You will have it for life. There's nothing you can do to heal it or cure it. The only, basically the only thing moving forward you can do is hope to manage the symptoms as best as you can with medications and drugs. And so I started that route. And as most people who do that find out very quickly, things get worse really bad. And those drugs obviously destroy the systems that we're actually trying to heal in the first place in order to heal the skin. So after doing that for about 4 or 5 years and seeing every specialist in the book, I decided to do my own thing. I knew that the body is a self-healing mechanism. If you give it the right environment, it can do pretty rad and miraculous things. And I said, hey, I have absolutely nothing to lose. Working with doctors is making me worse. My health is declining constantly. So I really need to take radical responsibility for myself and see if I can figure this out, because no one's going to do it for me. So I hit the books. I started really diving deep into, I found a library that was connected to Harvard, and I started studying medical journals from the 1940s before the pharmaceutical industries got a hold and they were just doing real science. So I was reading about digestional health and anatomy and biology. And in my mind, something clicked where, and this could be totally wrong, Shawn, you're obviously a doctor, you would know this, but in my mind, this is the way it lined up. The gut biome can heal my filtration organs. The filtration organs will lead to my hormones. My hormones will lead to my immune system. My immune system will lead to my nervous system. And then my nervous system will finally lead to the autonomic nervous system inflammatory response. That's the fight or flight. That's the root issue of skin disease in the first place. So I said, okay, I have to start with the gut, and I have to start with making my lifestyle, the foundation of health, better, because it absolutely sucked. So fast forward to 10 years ago, I created a system that was based on my schooling, which is behavioral science and yoga therapy. And it's kind of a system where you use your own biofeedback, your biomarkers and behavioral analysis to create a customized diet. It worked super well for me. I was able to cure my skin disease. I started posting videos on YouTube, and 10 years later, I'm sitting with, over 100,000 viewers on YouTube, way over 12 million views total with my socials. And I've used my system and worked with 1,500 individual clients, helping them with their skin. And I personally have been skin disease free for almost a decade now. So that's kind of the story, which leads to this point. And over the last 10 years, I've been focusing 100% on helping people with their skin, using this system to heal the gut biome, to help people move their bodies more, be more in tune with their circadian rhythm, and just be more natural and healthy. And that literally kind of leads to this moment.
I mean, I muted myself. Sorry about that. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about this moment. So, we're seeing, I see skin diseases getting better all the time, with diet now. I mean, that's not my sole interest. I mean, skin is one of the many things that we see nice results with, which I think is great. And we're trying to figure out, as we get more and more data from more and more people, what exactly is problematic for skin, which particular foods and things like that. So I'm excited about that. But you mentioned circadian biology or circadian rhythm. This is kind of light and day cycle and how we interact and how our body works physiologically, hormonally, on and on. How does that impact the skin? I mean, obviously, you got in the sun, you get a suntan, you convert some vitamin D, we know that. But what else is going on with light and day cycles in our skin?
Yeah, great. It's a great question. So there's a super copacetic relationship between the reflection of the skin and the way it's showing your health and your hormones and gut biome. So with circadian rhythm, it's a foundational practice, and getting up in the right time and going to bed at the right time does several things. One, it assures that we're getting some really basic stuff like enough sleep. During sleep, we're obviously doing all of the recovery cycles. That's when your body's going into the deepest levels of autophagy, cellular detoxification. That's when your organs are doing their things. That's when all the magic is happening. And if that sleep cycle during the day, or from how you sleep and when you go to bed, gets super disruptive, or disrupted rather, the ability to produce healthy hormones and to digest food and to be in rhythm with the day just goes out the door. So basically, in the morning time, when you wake up, there's a nice several hours where the body wants to get rid of stuff. Obviously, when you wake up, you got to pee, you got to poop. Your body wants to hydrate. Your body needs water. It needs to start its process of metabolizing life, circulating its blood, and waking up. That's also a really great time to set forth a mechanism of looking at the sun, not necessarily sun gazing, but being outside. If you can, shirt off, shoes off, in the grass, in the gravel, in the morning, sets that alarm clock in your body for melatonin. So if you get in the sun in the early part of the day, the circadian rhythm starts and allows you to actually go to sleep at night, because it starts this timing mechanism. So the circadian rhythm has all of these little things like this throughout the day, which once you get in rhythm with it, it really does start to affect your overall mood, your ability to sleep, your hormones, your gut biome, your digestion, all of these things. A couple things that I do generally to optimize my circadian rhythm is I try not to eat 2 hours before bed. So I give myself 2 hours to digest my food minimum before I go to sleep. I generally try to go to sleep around 9:30 to 10:30 on a regular basis. I try most mornings to get up with the sunrise and get outside as soon as possible, hydrate, move my body. And these little basic steps like this can really reset the rhythm. A circadian rhythm can be something where if you get it right, it can majorly help, but if you get it wrong, it can be very detrimental.
Yeah, so as far as, like I said, let's go back to this guy I talked about at the beginning here. Carnivore diet, doing it pretty, I think pretty decently. Maybe a few things he could tweak, but sees, and I think a year in, sees all psoriatic joint pain goes away completely. The arthritis component is completely gone. Skin is, 70% better, but he's still got a few patches that are still troubling. What else can be at issue here?
Good question. So first of all, 70% cured or healed in 1 year's time by simply adjusting the diet is actually really good. So he should feel great about the progress so far. Some things that he could do to just go further with it, or just make it more of an advanced level, would be to start to hone in on his macros. I don't really love the idea of using Chronometer or MyFitnessPal, an app to track everything all the time. I think that can lead to some psychological issues and eating disorder stuff. But I think that when you're trying to heal a disease, sometimes when you get really deep like he is, little minute data points and details can make a big difference. So with the carnivore diet, there's a huge difference between one that is using protein as its main source of fuel and one that's using fat. So playing with the macros can make a huge difference. Some people are going to thrive way more on a ketogenic ketovore type of diet, 70% plus of the calories coming from fat. Other people might do better with the fat down in the 50 or 30% range and focusing a lot more on protein. I think the other thing with the carnivore diet, and I think the thing with this community that obviously we're all starting to realize too, is that it is okay to bring in other things here and there and see what they do. Have some fruit, see what it does. Does it actually help your digestion? Does it hurt your digestion? Does it allow you to have a better macro quality? Also, experimenting through the entire animal food system can help you change your macros. For instance, I have clients who they do the carnivore thing or an animal-based system and they do really well, but they actually need some carbohydrates. Their body just functions better with some carbohydrates. They test fruit, doesn't really work. They test vegetables, absolutely horrible. They test nuts and seeds, always a disaster. So what does that leave? Where are we going to get our carbohydrates from? Okay, then we get a little bit more creative and we turn to things like raw milk. Raw whole milk from A2 producing grass-fed cows, for some people, is not going to work. But for other people, it can be an absolutely wonderful animal food that allows you to have some carbohydrate intake, easily digestible calories, some good fat, some great protein. So long-winded answer is start to play with the macros if you've gotten stuck. Also start to get creative with the other animal foods that you can bring in, possibly more organ meats, more varied animal diet, bringing in some raw fish and some regular fish and just varying things up. But at the end of the day too, 70% healed in 1 year off of the carnivore diet is great. The last point that I'll bring in will be non-diet related. For my clients who are the most successful, the diet is the cornerstone, but the lifestyle is extremely important as well. So 3 to 5 times per week, doing some form of resistance training, daily sun exposure, daily walking, doing some autophagy work like cold exposure, saunas, breath work, and then also some of these detoxification practices to clean out the lymphatic system and help the filtration organs along the way can work great. Things like the salt flush or some intermittent fasting or water fasting here and there done with the right timing can really take things from where he's at and maybe push them all the way to that totally great skin, consistent skin level.
So you mentioned, obviously we talked about psoriasis, but obviously there's many, literally thousands of skin conditions. Most of us are familiar with psoriasis, eczema, acne, dermatitis. And those are very common. Do you see significant differences or any nuances between, say, eczema versus psoriasis versus, seborrheic dermatitis and dandruff? Are there any nuances there that you've seen?
The good thing is that with symptoms, there's a lot of nuance, and there's even a ton of nuance between, I think last I checked in, there's over 800 forms of eczema. And every single one of those forms can have a different symptomology. Some people will suffer dry, crackly skin. Some people's skin will be oozy and bright red and bleeding, and other people's it might just look something that's a little bit dry and doesn't cause them too much itchiness, but it's just flaky and flaky and flaky. So the symptomology can be different for every single one of these different forms of skin disease. The good thing is that they all have the same root issue, and the pathology and the system to healing them is basically, whether you have eczema, dermatitis, rosacea, doesn't really matter. It's the same path to healing.
Do you find that, because obviously there's a lot of people that find a lot of healing just by eliminating everything, going, pretty much hardcore carnivore, but not everybody wants to do that the rest of their life. Do you find that there are certain foods that, or at least for some people, tend to be more safe? I know you mentioned A2 dairy for some, but what kind of foods do you find that are consistently problematic outside of, carnivore foods, and what foods maybe are more tolerated by other folks?
In the most general terms, what I've found is the best foods for healing the gut biome and all sorts of skin issues is animal fats, animal proteins, and fruit. Those three food groups are, they just have tested the best. They're the most trigger free. And I would even go so far as to say that almost all animal fats and animal proteins are not an issue for any of my clients, and only tiny bits of fruit, certain fruits for certain people just don't work. Where you start to get into the major problems is things like nuts and seeds and the inflammatory seed oils and all of the vegetables. Now, you might have one person that can handle iceberg lettuce, no problem. They can have a salad and throw some chicken or turkey or bacon on it and have a great time, where other people who are early in their healing process might have lettuce and that could destroy them. So all of the vegetables, all of the nuts and seeds, and all of the non-fruit plant foods are the ones that you have to actually really look out for. And if you're going to try eating them, you have to test them very slowly and take your time, because you can really mess things up just by adding one major trigger food back into your skin health diet.
Do you find that there are any consistent patterns with different demographics, say men versus women, or women that are going through menopause? Or do you see anything that's different in the way the disease presents, the frequency, and then maybe how you address it?
Yeah, the one interesting data point that keeps coming up that I thought maybe 5 years ago was just something that was a random, just a random stat, but I'm now seeing that most men, and this is general, compared to most women, do much better with a ketovore, keto carnivore, high fat, animal-based diet, where women are much more variable. They can kind of do better on a higher percentage of carbs and a lower percentage of fat compared to men. That's the only major dietary difference. As far as symptomology, as far as the path of getting these skin issues popping up, everyone's radically different. There's no true theme with women versus men. What I do see often, though, is people tend to either get the skin disease from childhood, and it kind of is something that rolls with them and then explodes at some point, or similar to me, that secondary puberty stage in your late 20s, early 30s. That's when I see a ton of people get the systemic version of eczema, dermatitis, psoriasis, whether they're male or female. That's what I see the most. Around 23 to 33 is, I would say, 90% of my clients.
When treating psoriasis traditionally, if you go to a dermatologist, you're almost going to always get some sort of corticosteroid cream. You're going to get, these different creams and things like that. Do any of those things, or anything in your opinion, is there any topical things that actually work that you found? Like, I know some people like to use tallow and stuff like that. Thing that you could put on the skin outside of what you're putting in your body that has a benefit?
Yeah, I'll touch on the pharmaceutical stuff. So I have a very big empathy for people who are suffering from these skin diseases. I know what it can lead to: depression. It hurts. When your face is covered with scabs and it's oozing, it's not a fun thing to be in public. And so I get when you go to a doctor, sometimes in the moment, you just want relief. And so taking a prescription drug or using the clinical steroids for the topical use, I get where people are coming from. I think that though, if those same people know what I know now and didn't know when I was doing that, they probably wouldn't even consider taking the drugs. Because what I've seen is that even the most benign thing like a over-the-counter cortisone that you can get at Walmart, it really throws the whole healing process into a weird situation because your body is being toxified in a way, and in this exact areas, the filtration organs, your hormones, your digestion are the things that are taking the brunt of these toxic drugs. And those are the exact systems that we're trying to heal. So it makes it really tough for, if you're taking these drugs for the gut biome and the hormones, to actually heal on their own. It almost makes it impossible. And then you throw in things like Dupixent, Humira, which are these injectables that are just absolutely gnarly. They can just make the healing process almost not happen. It's kind of scary. And I think that when you choose to just say, you know what, I'm going to just use natural methods, it can be a little bit challenging at first, but if you are patient, you do notice that in blocks of time, your biofeedback, the way you feel, your sleep, your energy, your strength, your body fat, everything is improving all the time when you kind of go the natural route, and it does start to ease the pain of the skin suffering majorly.
Yeah, there's just a couple questions in the chat I want to get to. One person asked about coffee. Does that have an impact on skin? Yay, nay for some people? What's the story with coffee?
I'm about to be the most unpopular guy on your channel of all time. If you have skin disease, don't drink coffee in any way, shape, or form. It is one of the top trigger foods. I'd put it up there with seed oils, extremely spicy foods like sriracha and coffee. For some reason, the coffee just doesn't play well with the skin health crowd at all.
You're gonna make the guys at Starbucks pissed off.
I know, man.
Those sugary, whatever they have, the grandes with all the sugar and whatever else is in there. Hey, let me ask you about light therapy. I mean, there's, obviously there's a sunlight, which has the whole entire spectrum of visible light. A lot of people are using red light therapy. I know there's something called PUVA therapy, which is UVA light that's been classically used for psoriasis. Do you find any of these red light devices to be effective or helpful in any cases?
Yeah, so I've had a lot of experimenting with my clients with all of this and myself. And what I found is, as you've kind of led to, is sunlight is the best. It's going to do the most. But things like the Juve, the red light therapy, and the UV therapy, they're actually doing pretty good compared to most of the other things that you see people trying. The light therapies seem to have the most upside and have the most neutrality in terms of bad side effects, almost no bad side effects. You just have to be cognizant of your skin tone and how much exposure you're letting yourself have. With those red lights like the Juve, you have a little bit more wiggle room. But if you're using the sun, you do have to use some timing. And if you're using the UV tanning bed type of things and you're light skinned, you do got to be quick in and out, or you don't want to burn, but you want that light. And I think having the Juve or something like that, there's a new product coming out that's called the Derma Beam, and it's like a helmet and with sunglasses, and you put it on, and it's got many different types of light therapy within it. For people that have the eczema or dermatitis or psoriasis on their face, that thing is going to be amazing. It'll give some symptomatic relief. And I do think it actually speeds up healing a little bit. Also, I think that anything that doesn't hurt you, that will help you heal, at least allows your mentality and psychology to be in a place where it's like, I'm doing something productive and I am focused on healing and the solution, rather than just kind of, what am I supposed to do today? I can't, instead of being in the victim mode, it's like, okay, I've got my light therapy set up, boom, solution oriented. So I think it's a great thing.
Let me just get a sense of volume for, how many, you said you've been doing this for a number of years and you've, got a fairly sizable channel that you've got people participating. How many people over the years have you've seen responding to this sort of diet lifestyle, with regard to psoriasis, eczema, whatever it may be? What percentage get pretty significant relief? How long does it typically take? What percentage don't respond as well? Give us an idea of the numbers.
Yeah, so I've been doing this for about a decade, and the past 5 years, the scope of the reach of everything has gotten obviously a lot bigger. So with the 1,500 private clients that I've worked with, what you see with healing timelines is generally comes in 6-month blocks. Generally in the first 6 months of doing a customized diet, addressing your lifestyle, doing the gentle cleansing and detox, you can see with your biomarkers and your biofeedback, huge growth in 6 months. I'm talking like a whole new human. The skin might not budge as fast as your health. Within a year, most of my clients, their skin is right where they want it to be, and they're able to consistently keep it that way moving forward. The main thing that holds people back is the basics, is being consistent long enough. And then also understanding, okay, I'm eating the right foods and all my biomarkers and my biofeedback is great. I feel amazing, but my skin looks bad. That's generally the place where people will jump ship and try some other thing that then messes them up. And what they really need to do is just hold steady. So what I've seen is that when people do the 3 things they have to do to heal their skin: customize their diet, gently cleanse, and address their lifestyle, and are consistent with it, all of them heal their skin or get to a place where the skin is manageable and their life is just back on track. Now, does that mean that every person I work with heals their skin? No, it's challenging. I mean, you have to have the discipline to eat right. You have to have the discipline to create a lifestyle that's healthy and full of fitness and full of movement. And for the people that I've worked with, or the people that have gone through my programs and who aren't doing well, the main thing is they just stop with the protocols. They stop with the diet. They're not consistent. They give up. And so it's a huge psychological component of just staying with it. It's a marathon approach. I say it all the time with my clients. It's like, okay, I know you're having a challenging week, but let's have the marathon approach. Let's look 6 months into the future right now and focus on that rather than this pain and suffering you're in this moment, because this will pass. We'll get through it. And the consistency moving through those challenging times is really what separates the people who have a good time healing and the people who struggle. Consistency.
All right, perfect. Now, I maybe I didn't catch you because we talked a little about cortisone and stuff like that, but is there sort of a skin maintenance? Let's say you've healed your psoriasis, it's not an issue, you're not having flare-ups, eczema's gone. Is there some sort of maintenance that people have to do? I mean, hydration, sun, exercise, sleep, anything? I mean, are there any creams and stuff? I know women love, I mean, it's a I don't know how many $billion industry, but skincare it's huge. I mean, there's women always slathering stuff. I mean, and not to pick on the women, but they seem to use it more than the men do. Are there things that women can do that moisturize that are okay that you'd recommend, or is that something you just say stay away from?
No, 100%. And I'm glad you came back to this, because I didn't fully answer the question the last time. The products in this community is a huge thing, because you can really toxify your skin by using the wrong products. For instance, you're going to want to address your deodorant. You want it to be aluminum free. All of your moisturizers, everything you put on the surface of your skin at the minimum has to be hypoallergenic, no perfumes, no dyes, no coloring, for sensitive skin. The main ones that work the best are 100% natural stuff. And luckily now there's a lot of companies like nosetotell.org who are coming out with tallow-based cleansers, tallow-based moisturizers, and tallow-based soaps. All of the tallow-based stuff works absolutely amazing. Some of the natural oils also work really great. Coconut oil for some people is amazing. Jojoba oil is amazing for some people. Shea butter can work really good. Even good old fashioned things like olive oil can be really supple and juicy and healing for the skin. And where I kind of differ from maybe some of the other people in my community, the skin health community, is that I believe that using these natural moisturizers is very nourishing, and there isn't any limit to how you should use them. So if your skin is constantly dry and cracking, and it's getting to the place where when you itch it, it bleeds, it's very prone to infection. It's very prone to getting worse. But if you use some natural lotions, like the ones I've mentioned, and you keep that moist, it's going to heal faster. It's going to not get to that place where it's super itchy, cracking, and infected. It can help the healing process majorly. Along with just your natural products that you're using on the surface of your skin, you do, and I'll address women more than men on this, your shampoos and conditioners have to follow the same rules. Hypoallergenic, no perfumes, no dyes. Your laundry detergent, it's got to be for sensitive skin, hypoallergenic. Your household cleaners, if you have skin disease and an immune disorder and you are using bleach nonstop in your house and 409 and all these harsh chemical cleaners, you're burning weird candles that have all these weird scents, you're really messing yourself up. So things like Simple Green, things like simple cleaners, you don't have to go so far as to just use water and vinegar to clean your house. You don't have to do that, but you want to avoid all harsh chemicals, and you want to limit your exposure to things like AC units, HVAC units, unnatural controlled environments. And when you start to change your products up, it can make a big difference, because just look at your skin as the same thing as your mouth. Would you eat what you just put on the surface of your skin? Coconut oil, yeah, you can eat coconut oil. Jojoba oil tastes like crap, but you could eat it. Tallow, you can obviously eat. So if you wouldn't eat it, don't put it on your skin.
Well, I mean, some people would eat canola oil and soybean oil, so that's the problem with that particular analogy. But hey,
That's very true.
Let me ask you, there's somebody in there asking about Vaseline. That's a petroleum-based, product. Is that something good, bad? It can help. It's often used to prevent drying out. But I mean, what are your thoughts on the petroleum-based products?
The Vaseline, actually, it's not that bad. There are some natural versions of Vaseline that I would suggest kind of Google searching. It's kind of always changing. But that type of ultra thick stuff can work really well. I tend to prefer castor oil because it has a little bit better ability to pull the toxins through the dermis, especially if you use a thing called a Castro pack. Most people haven't heard of that. And it's a basic technique where you take castor oil and you rub it onto flannel. And so you get the flannel very saturated. Then you put that flannel lubed up sheet or piece of cloth directly onto the part of your skin that you're addressing. Then on top of the flannel, you add heat. So like a heating pad or a hot water bottle. And what that does is over the course of about 30 minutes, that flannel is going to turn brown. It's going to pull all of this toxins out of your body, and the warmth and the castor oil on the spot is going to deeply moisturize and lubricate that area. So I prefer castor packs over Vaseline, but Vaseline's one of those kind of like man-made things that isn't really all that, it's pretty benign.
What about, okay, so let me just come back to dairy, and we kind of briefly touched on it at the beginning, but dairy, even though it's an animal product, does seem to be problematic for a lot of people, particularly for skin, things like acne and eczema. Is that something you see pretty consistently?
What I see is that your typical store-bought dairy is trash. And I don't even count that really as dairy. But if you're getting quality dairy from pastured grass-fed cows that produce A2 dairy, it's a completely different game. What I've seen is that for most people, butter, ghee, and full-fat cream from grass-fed cows works awesome across the board. Now, where you have some variability is where you're doing just your normal raw A2 milk. Some people are going to thrive on that, and some people are not going to thrive on that at all. The cool thing I will say about raw milk is that when you're testing it out, it gives pretty obvious feedback. You kind of either drink the milk and it works pretty fine, or it has a little bit of a phase where you have to get used to it, or it just kind of obviously causes some digestional issues and makes you not feel great. So it's a very easy food to test. But I would say that compared to public opinion, dairy for the skin is actually a lot more of a staple food than people would realize. I mean, if you're considering butter dairy, which I do, butter is in every single one of my clients' diet, and I eat a ton of butter.
Yeah. What about eggs? Are eggs something I've seen? Again, I've just seen so many reactions over the years. It seems like for the most part, ruminant meat and fat seem to be pretty benign for 99% of the people. But I do see, even within people that are sticking to animal products, dairy, eggs, sometimes certain seafood, shellfish whatsoever. Do you see any issues with those things?
Those are 100% the variable animal foods. And again, the egg thing is very similar to the dairy thing. Quality eggs with really dark orange yolks that come from pasture raised chickens tend to be a whole different nutritional thing than your farmed huge million chickens all in a big coop, your typical chicken industry egg. They aren't the same thing. They don't have the same nutrients. They're not fed the same foods. It's just different. And so if I'm talking about pasture raised eggs, quality eggs, a very high percentage of people do well on them that I work with. Now, there is some variability even within eggs. Almost everyone I work with does pretty good on egg yolks. The egg whites is where there's some issues. So for people that are experimenting with eggs, I say do some egg yolks first, and maybe even do them raw if you're game to it. See how that goes. But yes, you do have to test eggs, and not everyone responds awesome to eggs. Like you said, the beef, the ruminants, and the high fat, the tallows, the duck fat, the butter, the ghee tend to work for everybody. And people, I would go so far as to say at least 85% of my clients are regular egg eaters and do thrive on them.
Do you find that there's a lot of information out there that would suggest gut, dysfunction, however you want to describe it, whether it's dysbiosis, gut biome problems, or excess permeability, or whatever is going on in the gut? Do you find that once that heals, that people are able to eat a more varied diet without having, is there a point where, you can't tolerate something for a while, then you're able to tolerate it again with regard to the skin?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm probably a great example of that. There were foods that when I was still suffering with my gut biome and skin health issues, that if I ate, it would literally take me about a week to recover, both with my sleep, with my digestion, with my mood even. And those same foods, now I can eat them and absolutely nothing happens. Like literally nothing happens. Now I'm only eating them once in a while for fun, family events here and there. But it definitely, I see it all the time. I see when you go through the healing process and you start minimal and you really work on the foundational stuff and slowly customize the diet over time. For most people, the goal isn't just to live the rest of your life eating beef and salt. It's to start in a place that allows you to learn how to eat foods that are healthy for you, and eventually get to a place where dieting, which I don't really like that word, is just easy and second nature. And so I see my clients, they start animal based most of the time, they start carnivore most of the time, and that sticks with them as their fallback and their go-to. And when they get to a place 6 months in, a year in, 2 years in, the gut health solidifies so much that, hey, if they want to go have pizza and beer with the boys on a Friday night, they don't have to stress and worry that they're going to have a huge flare up. They can just go have fun. And then the next day, get back to the good stuff, get back to the healthy living, and there's not going to be any issue. So yeah, I definitely see the gut healing to a place where it can take on foods that it didn't used to be able to.
Yeah, you mentioned going to have fun with the boys. A lot of times that includes, tipping back some beers or mixed drinks or some kind of alcohol. How does alcohol impact the skin for many people? Is it one of those things? It's a significant problem for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a major trigger food, and there's alcohols that are worse than others. For my clients, I tell all of them for at least 6 months to a year, don't touch anything. Don't even mess around with it. It's not going to be advantageous to any part of your healing. Once you're to a place where your healing is a little bit more crystallized and you're a little more confident, you can have some wiggle room. The alcohols that are the worst is beer and red wine and really dark liquors like your whiskey. Whereas my clients and myself have the most success with clear liquors, things like champagne of all things, and just very simple, clear alcohols. If I'm drinking, I'm going to have a vodka tonic with lemon in it, something extremely simple. And hopefully I can find a high quality vodka. Because if I do that, I can have a drink or two or three, or sometimes, have a really fun night and nothing happens. It's all good.
When I was going to ask you about exercise. So a lot of people, particularly if they have psoriasis around their joints where it's cracked and it's bleeding, is there a point when exercise is not recommended? I mean, if you've got a joint that's covered in sores and you're constantly bending and extending it, there's some mechanical phenomena. So how do you approach exercise with your clients?
Yeah, I always tell my clients to leverage the range of motion that you can perform. So if you got a really bad elbow going on and it hurts to do that, but it doesn't hurt to do this, then you do this and not that. So you work within the range of motion that doesn't hurt, and you do your best to make it work. Walking is always something that is an amazing everything for the human body. And even my worst case scenario clients can take a gentle walk. And so if that's all that we can do, then that's all that we do. We do what we can. And as the skin gets better, you do more. Also, this kind of relates to the question about the moisturizers and the creams. The more you can keep your body in a place where it's not infected, where it's not overly dry, where it's not crusty, crackling and breaking apart, your body's going to actually feel a lot better as you move, and it's not going to cause those same issues. So that's the technique. It's just leverage the range of motion that you have to the fullest ability, and that range of motion generally will create more range of motion if you don't overdo it.
Yeah, just psoriasis or a lot of these diseases often are not isolated problems. I mean, a lot of people will have this plus that plus that. Do you find that the treatments for curing skin often help with these other things? Somebody has psoriasis and maybe depression, or they have psoriasis and they have IBS or something like that. What are you finding with regard to some of these other, I guess, side effects of taking care of their skin?
Yeah. So the funny thing is the skin is generally the last part of the human to heal. So all of the other stuff, when you start to do the carnivore diet, animal-based diet, get your macros right, work out, cleanse and detox, all of it starts to rapidly get better. I'm talking sleep, hormones, body weight, body fat, strength, just your body image, your overall mood, your sexuality, sex drive, creativity, ability to articulate. When you have the proper nutrients and you're giving your body what it needs, those things miraculously come back real fast. Like I'm talking about 4 weeks and you can see a difference. The skin is going to be a lot slower of a ball game. So I have clients come to me that have IBS, even diabetes sometimes, who are obese, who have all these issues. And 6 months in, the skin isn't perfect, but man, we are having a healthy human.
Yeah, it just kind of goes to the fact that a lot of these things have just a set of root common cause. I don't think I've gotten away from there's only one root cause, but I think there's some basic gut permeability, metabolic dysfunction, chronic inflammation. These things all seem to touch just about everything. They're all sort of interrelated. Are you seeing, like, obviously a lot of these people went to dermatologists or primary care physicians for their issues, and we're given cortisone cream, antifungals, it's genetics, whatever, rub this on that and come back in 3 months without making progress. Are you finding that some of these people are influencing their healthcare providers when they come and say, "Hey, look, I tried this diet and lifestyle things"? Is that something you're hearing anything about?
Yes, yeah, 100%. And this is a very positive aspect of this whole situation is I'm not I'm not someone who's anti-doctors. I think most people become doctors because they want to do something to help human beings, and they have a science brain, and they're very interested in science and the body and how everything works. I think those are amazing qualities of a human. I think that sometimes the schooling or the business side of things can start to get in the way. But a lot of times, generally what you see is when you go to a doctor, you're going to be told, hey, this is for life. You can't ever get rid of it. Here's the drugs that you can use. And here's the different techniques that other people have tried to manage symptoms. And that's what they're taught. That's what they believe. Now, some of the more open-minded, maybe more holistic doctors out there who have clients that I've worked with who come to them and say, hey, I saw you a year ago and I just wanted to check in and let you know that I'm totally healed. I don't have anything going on with me. And I did it in this methodology with this diet and these protocols. Generally, the doctors have two different responses. Sometimes they go, wow, that's really amazing. I'm happy for you. Can you tell me more? I want to learn more. Maybe this is something that the Dermatological Association can actually study and get into. And hey, maybe this diet thing has some merit to it. And they're open and they want to learn. And then later on, another client comes in and they say, hey, I had client Mike come in and he said that he tried this carnivore diet and this animal-based thing and the system with Rob Stewart. I'm not sure if it works, but hey, give that a try. And if a doctor is at least saying that, that is a huge improvement. And you do still have doctors where you'll dermatologists where you'll talk to them and say, hey, I used this system to heal my body and it was all diet based. And they say, oh yeah, sure, cool. They just kind of poo-poo you a little bit.
Do you find that as you've kind of come through this sort of place where your skin is healed, are there things that you can do now that you weren't able to do before? I mean, did it have a mental? I mean, you mentioned your face covered in crusty sores, and it's kind of socially stigmatizing to some degree. Has fixing the skin, has that made a significant impact on your just overall life?
For me, the skin was a bit of a metaphor, and not to get too woo-woo, but for me, the skin was a metaphor for the mess of the life that I had created for myself. So for me to be able to heal my skin, I had to learn discipline and behaviors and be consistent and basically become a good human, someone who could set forth a daily schedule and actually do it. Someone who could commit to a process and see it all the way through, someone who worked hard, someone who was consistent. And I wasn't those things before I healed my skin. And after healing my skin, it really taught me more than just what to eat and what not to eat and how to be healthy. It actually taught me how to create a business and to be an entrepreneur and to be disciplined. And so for me, not only did it give me a whole second lease on life as like an energetic, healthy person who could look in the mirror and say, man, I'm happy with the way I look. I'm confident and I actually think I'm attractive, and that feels amazing. But it also gave me a deeper level of tools that in the past 10 years have led to me having, financial freedom and running really good businesses and creating awesome communities and interacting with all these amazing people. And so honestly, for me, getting eczema was the best thing that ever happened to me, because if I didn't have to overcome that, I don't know where I would have been. That was kind of my dragon, that was kind of like my coming of age story. And I see that reflected in many of my clients, that the skin disease is a physical thing, but there's always a psychological and behavior component to it. And as they learn to heal their skin, a lot of these other things, maybe depression, maybe stress, maybe bad communication, maybe bad relationships, you have to get rid of all that in order to be in a place where you can heal. And so all these other aspects of your life start to fall into place. You get rid of the energy vampires in your life and the naysayers, and you start to surround yourself with actually a group of people like your community that have your back and inspire you and keep you focused and keep you moving forward. And I didn't have any of that previous to my skin disease. I was on a, I wouldn't say a bad path, but just a normal path. I was a baseball player in college and a fun loving kid and just living my life, but not really doing a whole lot.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great, there's a silver lining in every cloud, or, how to turn, lemons into lemonade, or whatever you want to put it. I mean, many of us are faced with adversity, and often how we react to that kind of defines us. And, you hear about so many people overcoming significant problems in life only to go on to do great things. And sometimes, it's when you're just comfortable all the time, you have nothing that challenges you, you don't really make progress. And this forces your hand to either sink or swim. And it looks like you're swimming here. One last question, Rob, before you go. I can't remember. I think maybe at one point you told me you were kind of on a plant-based journey, and I'm not sure if that's the case or not. I can't remember. But do you find that you see a number of people that have gone, for what, they, potentially because they think it's the right thing to do for their health or the environment, or ethically plant-based, and they have a lot of skin issues? Have you seen that as a significant cohort of who you take care of?
Yeah, it's been, so just a little brief summary. I started my healing journey full vegan and was plant-based and vegan for a lot of years. And what led me to actually getting my health to a whole nother level was my vegan days ended really bad. I had a death of a baby that was due to, and I've been attacked by the vegan community for this statement a lot, but it's just the truth. My partner at the time had been vegan for 8 years. She developed a blood disorder, MTFR, with a mutated gene, doesn't allow you to upregulate B vitamins very well, and has a host of other issues. One of the issues from that is that you can't really have a healthy, viable baby. And so we had a miscarriage. And at that same time, I had been vegan for about 7-8 years, and my health had declined majorly. As you can see right now, looking at me, I'm 5'10", 195 pounds. And I got down to 140 something pounds as a vegan. Gut biome was destroyed, lost a baby, almost lost a partner during that process. And it shook me up, obviously, as it should. And that's when I turned to the carnivore diet and the animal-based diet to heal from that. And it significantly quickly worked. Now, to answer your questions about my clients, most of my clients who have tried other things and had them make them a lot worse are all coming from like the raw vegan and vegan community. So like you have these people that promote these like, just eat grapes and take my super expensive, overly powerful herbs and you'll heal. Well, that really destroys all levels of your health. And so I have a lot of people from that camp coming to me saying, I tried this protocol, can you help me? I have a lot of people who are raw vegan for 5 years or 6 years or 10 years. And at first it felt great. And then the diminishing returns started happening in a major way really fast. And their hormones are tanked and their body weight's really horrible and all of these issues. So I tend to get a lot of ex-vegans coming to me and a lot of current plant-based people who are having no success come to me, really because it does boil down to what we talked about earlier is fruit and animal fats and proteins are the most safe foods. And within the whole food kingdom, the nuts, the seeds, and all of the vegetables have the biggest possible being trigger foods with anti-nutrients, salicylates, oxalates, all that shit. The hardest diet to make work and to customize and to have long-term success on, and the diet that provides me with the most clients that I've had, is the vegan and plant-based diet.
Okay, well, interesting. So Rob, we've come through an hour. I really appreciate your time and your just the expertise and the fact that you're helping so many people do this. It's awesome to see. Let folks know where they can find you, whether in person or on the internet or social media, whatever you want to.
Yeah, I'll give everyone my list. Thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it, Sean. Quick story. The first time I heard about you was on, like many, Joe Rogan. And I told you this story. I was like, who is this giant Viking man doctor who's eating meat only? I'm like, this is total bullshit. who the hell is this guy? And then lo and behold, I practice what you preach. So it's been an amazing voyage from that Joe Rogan interview to this point. So I want to thank you for what you've done and having me on in the community you've created. It's awesome. If you guys want to find me, I have a couple different offerings. HolisticHealthActivation.com is my website. That's where you can sign up for private coaching. I have a 6-week group course / community that will be relaunching on Sunday. You can find that at healpsoriasisandeczema.com. And then, of course, on my socials, on the YouTube, it's just Rob Stuart, ROBSTUART. And on the Instagram, I'm Stuart Rob Stuart, my last name, then my first name, then my last name, STUART. That's where you can find me. Hit me up, DM me, email me. I'm happy to help any and all people. Thanks again for having me on, Shawn.
All right, Rob, thanks. Have a great day, folks. And everybody, I will actually, I won't be seeing you tomorrow because I'm driving to Naples, Florida. I'll be on the road, but I will see you guys on Friday. Have a great day, Rob. The rest of you guys have a great day, and we'll see you Friday. Take care.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Join Revero.health for a 30-day free trial to get access to live Q&A with VIP guests, social community meetings, member discounts, low-carb healthcare providers list, forum, workouts, monthly challenges, early access to podcasts, recipes, carnivore diet guide, fasting guide, shred guide, and much more.